Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Curran, live from the Rush warehouse, and you're watching Sonic Perspectives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo, and my guest today is Mr. Andy Curran. Andy is a founding member of the Canadian band Coney Hatch, and currently he's the bass player of the band Envy of None, the new band from Alex Lifeson of Rush. Andy, thank you so much for joining us.
Rodrigo, it's a pleasure to be on the show, and thank you for having me. And nice to know that we're both here in Ontario.
We are, yeah, we're somewhat nearby, yeah.
Nice to meet you, Rodrigo. And I when I saw your name, I wasn't too sure what to expect, because I was like, okay, am I doing an interview with somebody in Spain, or where are we going with this, right?
Yeah, I'm actually Brazilian. I was at the Rush in Rio show, so.
Okay. Oh, you were?
I was.
Oh my God, you're that's kind of, listen, when you talk about Rush, that's kind of like a trophy, pivotal point in their career, right? When that whole thing with the audience singing along to an instrumental, it just went from there, right?
Yeah. I met Alex and Getty on the Grapes Under Pressure thing in 2018. I told them, both of them, that I was there, and they were like, oh my God, we'll never forget that show, because it's awesome, right? And they're like this, like we did in the audience, when I think it was on Free Will that we did this, and they did that to me there.
I heard a lot of great stories about it. Maybe you know or don't know this, but I worked with the guys at the management company and their record company for about 15 years. So it was just after the Rush in Rio when I started working with the guys, and I heard some amazing stories about that. I like your background, by the way.
There you go.
Nice one.
I think it looks kind of cheesy when I put the background of the albums I'm discussing, but any promotion is good promotion. So
I love it. It's you between the two girls. It's perfectly situated, right?
Symmetrical, yeah. Before we go into the Rush details that you have there in the background, let's talk about Envy of None. How did that project come together?
It's been a long time in the works. I think really the best start for me is to tell you when I met Maiah Wynne, who's the vocalist in our project. And when I was, you and I spoke just before we went on air, but when I was working with Anthem Records and SRO Management, I got a phone call, and there was a gentleman who asked me if I would like to be a judge for an online talent contest. And lots of times I would gladly do that stuff. As an A&R guy, I would sometimes I'd go to Battles of the Band, or there's a big radio station here that called Hits FM 97.7, and I would drive out to St. Catharines, and I would sit through, an evening of 10 bands. And I just think it's important to help younger artists. So I was happy to be a judge. And so they said, Andy, we're going to make your life really easy. We're going to send you 10 songs. You rate them from 1 to 10, 1 being your favorite, 10 being your least favorite. We're going to pick a winner. And then the winners we'll pick 5 winners. Some of them are going to get some cash. Some of them are going to get some studio time. And some of them are going to get mentoring calls from people in the music industry. So we'd like you to give a mentoring call. And I said, that sounds like a pretty crappy prize, but I'm in. And so, and then fast forward, they chose the multiple winners of this contest, and Maiah Wynne got the prize to have a mentoring Zoom call with me. So it was during that call that I thought really she was just going to pick my brain about the industry. She's a very young artist, 21 at the time. And I listened to 4 of her songs, and she wanted some feedback from them. And one of the songs, Rodrigo, that was very different from the others. There was 3 that were kind of what I call sort of pop, alt, country, and then the rest, and the other song was quite different. So I asked her to go into great detail about that song. I said, this one I think is quite interesting, and maybe you should go down this avenue. And she said, well, the guy that I wrote that, or the person that I wrote that with, is no longer in Portland, Oregon, where she lives. And so I gave her a bit of a pep talk. I said, look, you gotta go out there and you gotta meet musicians and you gotta network and you gotta do this and you gotta do that. And that's the progression of an artist. You network, you meet people. And she said, well, I look you up on the internet. Can I write with you? And I was like, I was not expecting that. I was like, wait a sec. I thought you wanted me to talk to you about the music industry, right? So long story short, I said, look, I've got a lot of music that I put aside for a rainy day, but it's nothing like Coney Hatch. It's nothing like Leisure World or Caramel or any of my bands. I said, it's very electronic. It's very almost atmospheric. It's a little bit ambient. It's industrial. All of the things that Envy of None sort of has, these little, trimmings of different styles. And I said, I'm going to send you that. So I sent her about a half a dozen ideas, and the one she gravitated towards was a song called Shadow. She called me up and said, I really like this. I would like to sing on it. So I sent her little seeds of ideas of some vocal hook or a vocal melody, which was a running theme through the Envy of None record. When Maiah and I were working together, I would send over ideas and I would say, hey, I got a little snippet of a melody idea or a vocal idea or a lyrical idea. And if you like it, use it. If you don't worry about it. 9 times out of 10, she did. So with Shadow, the interesting thing that happened, Rodrigo, is that that song I sent to Alex. I said, by the way, he asked me what I was up to. We're friends. We stay in touch all the time. Right. And I said, man, I'm just, connected with this young artist from Portland, Oregon, and I really think she's special. I'd love to send it to you. And so he heard Shadow and he said, oh my God, this girl, she is, you've definitely found a diamond in the rough here. And I said, well, what do you think about putting some guitars on it? And he goes, yeah, I'm in. And it was as easy as that. I really wasn't expecting it. So that was the beginning of Envy of None. We didn't have a working title for the name of the band. We didn't have any ideas about shopping a record deal. We had no ideas about would we release it. It was just like 4 musicians that were writing, the fourth being my friend Alfio Annibalini, a good Irish Catholic boy. No, I'm only kidding. But he and I, we work a lot together, and we had been collaborating. And honestly, it was one of our ideas to find a young artist, see if we could bring them into the fold with what we were doing and maybe do a project with them. And lo and behold, we found Maiah Wynne, and that's how Envy of None started.
Awesome. And Alfio is an interesting choice. I know you're friends, but he worked with artists as diverse as Voivod and Nelly Furtado, right? Bit of a dichotomy there.
Yeah, and you know what? He's also done a ton of hip hop and rap and stuff. I met Alfio when I was doing my Leisure World record. Okay. And Alf is a very respected engineer, mixer in Canada. And as you said, worked with a ton of great artists. And I hit it off with him when I was doing the Leisure World record. And one day, a funny story that I'll tell you is we were in a recording session and he was doing his regular thing. We were setting up amplifiers and he was putting microphones on them and stuff like that. And I said, I guess we should test this amp out. And he goes, yeah, I'll do it. And he grabbed a guitar and he started playing. And I was like, what the heck? Since when do you play guitar? I only knew him as a mixing guy and a recording engineer, and he's shredding on this guitar. And I'm like, where the hell did that come from? I found out that he was a graduate of the Humber. It's a college here in Canada, and has churned out many respectful musicians. So I found out that he's a guitar player, he's a keyboard player, he does a lot of programming. So that was when I went, wait a sec, we got to work together. So we started sharing ideas back and forth, and we constantly accuse each other of sharing a brain, because most of the time I'll say something and he'll be, I was thinking the exact same thing, or vice versa, right? So we hit it off, and we've been collaborating for years. And as I said, we kind of had this idea, like, we would write ideas and just go, what are we going to do with this? And I said, let's just put it away for a rainy day. Maybe something might happen with it. So Liar is a perfect example of that. That riff I ended up writing in 2014 that I stuck away and played for David Dave Ogilvy of Skinny Puppy, but he had a band called Jackalope.
Mhm.
And he was looking for some material for Jackalope. And so I sent it to Dave and I said, what do you think about this idea, Liar? It was in its very early rough stages. And he said, I love it, Andy, but the band just broke up. So
Oh,
I'm not going to be able to use it. So I kept it. And it was one of the first or second ideas that I sent to Maiah.
Mhm.
So we've been just cobbling together music ideas like a couple little squirrels, Alf and I. And this has been a great outlet for it. And I mean, having Alex Lifeson involved, I mean, who are we kidding here? This was just like, what a shot in the arm. And the fact that he loved Maiah, wanted to work with me. And so it all came together really organically. I know that's an overused phrase, but it was.
Yeah.
There wasn't any phone calls of like, let's put a band together, let's do this, let's go shop a deal. Alex and I are both very interested in writing music for film and television. So we had
Mhm.
already started about talking to collaborate together. So it was just a nice fit, you know, everything's just seeing the timing of everything just seemed to work really well.
Right. And the first song that was reviewed, you just mentioned it, Liar. It got a good reception, but I can sense some of the old school Rush fans like raising their eyebrows. Like by design or not, it certainly doesn't sound like Rush, right?
No, it doesn't sound like Rush and it doesn't sound like Coney Hatch. If
Yeah.
anything, it might, for anybody that has followed the records that I've made, I think the last record that I did, Leisure World, there are some trimmings of that alternative, a little
Mhm.
bit industrial in there, but I can tell, you know, from what I'm hearing, and I don't spend a lot of time on the forums and chat forums and looking to see, oh, what are the Rush fans saying about,
Mm.
you know, Liar? But I think in general, the Rush fans are very happy to see Alex back on the scene again and working and
Absolutely.
doing music. There have been some vocal ones that are like, this doesn't sound anything like Rush, or where's the guitar solos or anything. But if you talk to Alex, he's fine with that. This is a total different thing. This is a departure for him. Um,
Maybe
he
that's the point, right?
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And he intentionally did not write guitar parts that he would have written for Rush. Same
Mhm.
with me for the bass lines. I approached it in a very different way. There's a lot of songs on the record that if you go back and listen and go, where are the guitars?
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, those guitars sound like keyboards, or they're like the beginning of Look Inside is a perfect example of it. It starts off with this syncopated little soundscapey thing, and it's all guitar. It's all
Oh,
Alex
okay.
Lifeson. So
Yeah.
he's hitting chords and putting them through processing and turning things backwards and putting them through gates and triggering some of them so they're very rhythmic.
Mm.
So, you know, I would encourage anybody that listens to the Ambient Nun record when it finally gets out, just have a deep listen to it, because those swirling textures that surround Maiah's vocals, those are pretty much all Alex Lifeson.
Oh, cool. Glad to hear that. Yeah, I heard the whole thing, and I think it's better experience when you listen to everything from start to finish, because then you get a sense of the intention of the album, as opposed to just a single here and there. It's hard to get a feel for the intention of the album with isolated tracks. That's my take, anyway.
I would agree with you. Even with
Yeah,
Liar coming out, Liar is not indicative of the rest of the record.
yeah,
It's definitely one of the harder hitting, edgier, fuzzier, nastier tracks. Yeah, and then you know, for Look Inside, that's a little bit trippier, a little bit more ambient. But as
yeah.
you said, you've had the luxury of listening to the whole record. So
Yes.
the common thread that goes through it is obviously Maiah's voice, but there's a lot of different styles happening there, even with Alex on the compositions that he wrote with Spy House and Kabul Blues. Those are
Yeah,
nothing like Liar. Absolutely,
yeah.
completely different. Old Strings is another song that's very stands on its own. So
Mhm.
we're kind of proud with the turf that we cut here. You know, there's quite a broad. You open the blinders out. There's quite a broad spectrum of styles in this record, I think.
Uh-huh. And tell me about the album cover, the one that's behind me. What's the intention there?
So with anybody, and you would know this too, with anybody, it's always difficult to come up with graphics of
Yeah.
or album covers. So collectively, everybody in Envy None started talking about their favorite album covers, and we were bringing up records like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Led Zeppelin, House of the Holy. I'm a big metal rock fan. I love all of the UFO covers, UFO phenomenon. The common denominator on that is Storm Thorgerson and a company called Hypnosis.
Yeah.
So the reason that we started using that as a benchmark was because if you look at Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon or Led Zeppelin House of the Holy, they really have nothing to do with the band. There's no band photos on there. There's no they're just eye candy, and you walk into a record store and you go, what the hell is that? That looks so cool. And I used to buy records just picking them up just because I love the artwork, right?
Same here. Yeah.
Anyway, we went on this journey to try to find imagery that really didn't have anything to do with the music or our faces, but actually were eye candy and compelling. So one night I went down the rabbit hole and I was on Instagram and I found this company based out of Lebanon called Plastik, Plastik. And this is a really, really talented guy named Eli. And he had that photograph there that was slightly different. On the trays were these high-end women's purses that he had found. And it was a campaign for this company out there. And so I contacted him, I cold called him and said, would you be interested in licensing us this image? We love it. We love all of your work. We want to slightly Photoshop it. We want to have some fun with it. We want to put the name of our project on it. And we struck a deal with them. And when you eventually see the album artwork, you'll see the girls in different, there's some cigarettes hanging out of their mouth, and we had some fun with them, but that's where the image came from. And I encourage anybody to go look at Eli's work and search a company called Plastik, because this guy is so talented. He might be the new modern day Storm Thorgerson for all we know.
I'll check him out. Yeah.
And
you worked as an A&R for Rush for many years, and I think you're still involved with the band, right? We see it in the background there.
Yes. Yeah.
So, to what extent are you still involved and with the publicity that keeps on going even after all these years that they've finalized the band basically?
Yeah, well, good question. For many years, I think close to 15 years, I was with Anthem Records as their A&R guy, and part of their management team. Traveled a lot with Rush and the Tea Party and Big Wreck and Stephen Page, The Reason, so a lot of management stuff. But after Neil's passing, really my job sort of started to be the guy that was in charge of the box sets. So 2112, the 40th anniversary of 2112, or the 40th anniversary of what was the other one? Farewell to Kings after that, and moving into Hemispheres. Then there was a change of ownership and CEO over at Anthem Records. And my dearly departed mom told me that if you don't have something nice to say about somebody, you don't say anything at all. Let me just say that I did not see eye to eye with the current CEO that's at Anthem Records, and I resigned there. There was stuff going on there that just my spider senses and my instincts were that I shouldn't be involved in it. So what I did was I left Anthem Records, and Geddy and Alex asked me if I would still continue to work with them in the musical instrument space, because I always helped them with Gibson and Fender, Neil with DW drums. As a musician, I could talk the talk if we were doing any new projects with Fender or Gibson or Tech 21. And that's why I'm down at the warehouse here. We're about to do a bunch of fun stuff with Alex and some new gear, which I'm not really at liberty to tell you, but if you follow the Lurkst amplifier page, Alex is just about to announce some really cool things there. His new signature Epiphone that just came out, I worked with him on that. So I love that kind of stuff, Rodrigo. It's just like I'm into gear and musical instruments and everything. So that's the extent of what I'm working with Geddy and Alex on right now.
Awesome. And I actually met you, that book, Wandering the Face of the Earth, when it was released, there was a release party in a small book.
In Roncesvalles.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I thought you looked familiar. Yeah. And it's a Mark Irwin was there, right? And Chip and
Skip.
So no, that was a fun night. That was a really fun night. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love hanging out in Roncesvalles too. There's some
yeah,
good restaurants out there.
exactly. Yeah, I was actually supposed to interview Mark and Skip, but life happened. We ended up not doing it, but hopefully someday soon. Yeah,
I would listen. Those two guys are very approachable, so I would
yeah,
continue to reach out to them. Mark's a fantastic artist in his own right, and
yeah,
I think that would be a fun interview for you.
yeah, absolutely. And you're also a senior director A&R at El Mocambo Records. What's the plan for the label and for the legendary El Mocambo these days?
So, great question.
Hmm.
I became friends with Michael Weckerly, the CEO there,
Hmm.
and he was a friend of my brother John's, my younger brother John's. So, when Michael bought the Elma Combo, he brought me in, and I helped him with put together a really reputable bunch of people and crews to do the renovations of the actual venue itself. And Michael was constantly telling me, Andy, you got to book the club. You got to come down and book the club for me. And I'm like, Michael, I've done a lot of things in my time as a musician in the music industry, but booking a venue is not one of them. And so I have no expertise at that, nor is it something I want to do. That's a young man's game, to be up late at night booking venues and stuff, right? But he said he wanted to start a record label. So I said that I'm interested in. So I helped Michael get distribution with Universal Music in Canada, and we signed 5440 and Kim Mitchell. So the last couple of 5440 records that came out were on El Mocambo Records, and the last Kim Mitchell record came out on El Mocambo Records. So we signed a young band called Hutch, Huttch, from Windsor.
Hmm.
But it's a very small label, and it's been a slow build because it's just tough to get a label off the ground these days. But I'm having fun with Michael on that, and again, I love working with artists, and not just myself doing music, but working with a guy like Kim Mitchell or Neil Osborne from 5440. Those guys are they're such talented musicians, so it's been a fun working with those guys too.
Awesome. A lot of people don't know, and maybe a lot of people who will watch this interview don't know, but El Mocambo had a Rolling Stones show in 1977, right?
They did. They just celebrated the anniversary of that show.
Yeah.
And a Toronto band called the Blushing Brides,
Mm.
just played 2 nights there. But for anybody that doesn't know about the El Mocambo, go to the new website, elmocambo.com. But that club started back in 1948 as a salsa lounge in
Yeah.
Toronto. And it really hit its sort of pinnacle when in the 80s with bands like obviously the Rolling Stones being the biggest one, but Stevie Ray Vaughan played there,
Duran
Devo played
Duran.
there,
Yeah.
the Duran Duran, Cheap Trick, Blondie, the Ramones, Rory Gallagher, Edgar Winter. I saw a bunch of great shows. I saw the Cars play the very first time in Toronto as a
Oh, wow.
teenager. I saw them play there. Coney Hatch played there. It was a big
Mhm.
deal for us to play there
Yeah.
under the neon palms. But the history and the heritage. You too played their very first Canadian show at the El Mocambo there. Um, I believe it was the night after John Lennon was shot in New York. But
Oh, wow.
do your homework and go back and look at all those amazing, iconic bands that played there. And the renovations are spectacular. So I encourage anybody to try to get down to the El Mocambo because it's a fantastic venue.
Yeah. And I can't have you do an interview and not ask you about the Coney Hatch days and the future plans. I believe you played a few shows in 2018, 2019, and there was a live stream in 2020, right?
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
The Coney Hatch thing has been an interesting ride for me because
Mm.
really the heyday for us was between 1982 and 1985 when we were
Mhm.
signed to Mercury and Anthem, and we did all those tours with Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Crocus, and we played with Ted Nugent and Edgar Winter, and oh my
Yeah.
God, the bands that we played with, these guys were heroes of mine, and it was just like what an incredible ride. It's ironic that people ask me about
Mm.
Coney Hatch because Full transparency, I had a lot more success as a solo artist. When I went out on my own, I was lucky enough to get nominated for 2 Juno Awards and win a Juno Award for my Andy Curran solo record. And then I had a band called Soho 69. Then I had a band called Caramel that was signed to Geffen, and another band called Leisure World that was signed with Artist Direct. So I always kept in touch with the Coney Hatch guys, and it wasn't until we were approached by Frontier Records in Italy, probably 2014, somewhere around there, I think, or 15. And they said, we want to release a new Coney Hatch album. And I said, well, we're not really a band. For Weekend Warriors, we go out and play our old material. And they said, well, write some new songs and we'll put your record out. And be careful what you wish for. That record, Coney Hatch 4, that we put out was voted in the top 50 records of Classic Rock magazine. And so it was like, okay, well, I guess there are people that still care about us. So we did a bunch of shows, as you mentioned, a lot of them in Europe. So we played in the UK, we played in France, we played in Germany and Belgium. And we hadn't played there a lot during our careers. So there was this resurgence that started to happen and this new interest in Coney Hatch. So that spun off into us playing some shows in Canada. We played with Helix for the first time ever, which was fun, and did a bunch of dates. A lot of them were canceled for COVID, or rescheduled. We just recorded 2 new tracks, 2 new studio tracks. We did a live stream, as you said, at the legendary El Mocambo and recorded a live record there and released a limited edition vinyl for that. And so our plans are like, we're all buddies. It's like going out and playing beer league hockey with your friends. We all get along. So we'll probably do some more shows this year and next. But if we play 5 or 6 shows a year, that's a very busy year for Coney Hatch, because everybody's busy doing their other stuff, me included. I love those guys. It's very comfortable. It's like putting on an old pair of tennis sneakers, because I can slip into them easy, and it's like, oh yeah, this is how that feels. This is fun.
I can tell you guys are very comfortable on stage. I saw the DVD that you mentioned. You guys have so much fun on stage. Yeah,
we're still good friends, and Sean Kelly has been a nice addition to the band. You mentioned Nelly Furtado. Sean played with Nelly. He plays with Lee Aaron and Helix. He's just a gifted musician. So it was a nice shot in the arm to have an injection of youth. And Sean's constantly calling me, going, "Dude, what are we gonna do? Let's do some new Coney Hatch stuff, right?" So we do have 2 new studio songs, studio tracks that we want to release, and I would think that'll probably be the next thing that we do, Rodrigo.
Yeah, awesome. Back to Envy of None. I know that there's little to no chance of touring, but what kind of event are you guys planning to promote the album? Maybe a release party of some kind, or?
There has been some talk about doing, sort of like a Q&A, maybe play a couple songs, do something streaming. It seems to be the #1 question people asking us, will you guys play live? And I think we want to see what kind of reception the record gets before we get too far ahead of ourselves. I think certainly Alex and I are in no hurry to go back out on the road, because that's a grind. But if there was
done that,
but Alex has said, if there was some special, maybe festival plays or something like that he might consider. So I think the answer that I like to give people is, we'll see.
Got it. Well, I will keep my fingers crossed for sure. I'm a big Rush fan. As I told you just before we started recording, I was at the Rush in Rio show, so that's my kind of claim to fame as a Rush fan. So what a great show to attend. And I'll tell you, as a Rush fan, what my claim to fame is. I was at Massey Hall one of the 3 nights that they recorded All the World's a Stage. Oh my God.
Max Webster was the opening band. I'm dating myself, but I loved Rush growing up. So I was at that show at Massey Hall, and they later recorded it and released it as All the World's a Stage. So that was a special night. I think they played most of 2112 that night, if I recall.
They probably did. Yeah, I think they only played it in full once, one of the different stages, Test for Echo tour. That's when they played it in full. But yeah. Then they condensed it to a medley. But no, I share your appreciation of the band, and I consider myself pretty lucky and blessed that I'm been able to work with those guys
in the capacity that I did, but the new chapter being involved, you know, creatively with Alex is insane. I love it, man. It doesn't get any better than that.
Amazing, right? Working with your heroes.
Yeah, like if you had ever said to me, "Hey, Andy, do you think one day you'll be in a band with any of the guys from Russia?" I'd be like, "Yeah, you know, go smoke another bowl of crack. That'll never happen."
Right. Amazing. Well, Andy, thank you so much, man, for your time, for the interview. All the best with Envy or None. Hoping for some more Coney Hatch activity or solo stuff from you. And we'll be in touch.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I had a blast, Rodrigo, and appreciate you spreading the word, and hopefully we talk again soon.
We will. All right. Thanks, man.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.